Hello, my name's Jack Shamash, and I wanted to talk about anti-Semitism because although anti-Semitism does exist in this country, it's on a relatively minor level and is currently being blown out of all proportion. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a journalist. I've written for most of the national papers about Judaism. That's the Telegraph, the Independent, the Times, the Guardian. I live in a very mixed area of North London. Everybody knows that I'm Jewish. I got married in an Orthodox synagogue. I have a mezuzah. That's one of those little scroll on my door. My kids went to a state primary school and indeed to two different local comprehensives. And I can honestly say that none of us has ever experienced anti-Semitism. No one has ever said anything nasty about Jews, and I go to a lot of Jewish family events, and no one ever complains about anti-Semitism. I'm not exaggerating. My kids can't think of any incidents of anti-Semitism. I was speaking to my wife, and we racked our brains, and she remembered that about 25 years ago, she worked with a colleague who would continually call her Rebecca. My wife's name, incidentally, is Carol, and would talk loudly about bagels. So we assume that she was anti-Semitic in some way. My father, about 30 years ago, encountered a cab driver in Brighton who launched into a rather threatening diatribe about Jews. And my father died 20 years ago. This is how long it is. My father was understandably alarmed. But that's about it. Now, I don't know anyone else who's suffered real anti-Semitic attacks. I know a lot of people in the Stamford Hill community. That's the guys in North London. They have the big hats, the Hasidic, mainly Hasidic, and they also they also say that they never have any problems. And I take part in security patrols outside my synagogue, and we've never had any problems whatsoever. The only issue is that, as far as I know, is that some Jewish school kids have to put up with a certain amount of anti-Semitic abuse i.e. they get from other schools. For example, they'll get called Yids on the bus. Now, this isn't very nice, and obviously there's no place for it in modern society, but it doesn't represent a sort of anti-Semitic tsunami. Now, of course, there are lots of statistics about anti-Semitism, and I'll probably be going into them in another talk. But I don't really think that we live in a country where anti-Semitism is rife. Now, I just thought I'd leave you with this. This is something which it was the lead story on in the big. I've downloaded it from the internet, but it was the lead story in the biggest Jewish paper, which is the Jewish News, and this was January the 22nd, 2017, this year, and it highlights what's described as a series of anti-Semitic incidents in the London borough of Barnet. Now, the first one was indeed serious. One had wrapped a brick with some anti-Semitic slogans around it and thrown it through somebody's window. Obviously, that's a very serious incident, and the police rightly were involved, and the community was rightly alarmed about it. But the others were a lot less serious. In one case, someone had written in condensation on somebody's window a swastika. They'd drawn a swastika, but by the time the police arrived, the swastika had evaporated. Another one, someone had written Heil Hitler on a dustbin. And in another case, somebody had thrown an egg at an old lady. Now, that's not a very nice thing, but there was no evidence that there was any anti-Semitic intent in this. But the police did treated it as a racist incident. But the fact is that anti-Semitism does exist to some extent, but it is being blown out of all proportion, and I don't think this is very good for anyone, and it certainly isn't very good for the Jewish community who are being scared by all this talk, and I also think that it actually inflates the importance of the anti-Semites themselves. So, in a sense, it's almost boosting them. I'm not saying that we should keep quiet about such things, but we certainly shouldn't allow them to have an excessive sense of their own importance. I'll be giving some more talks, so thank you very much for listening.